We are now live and it is being recorded.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you to officers and members, and welcome to this meeting of the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Just a couple of notes before we begin. Firstly, at the beginning of the meeting, I will be asking the scrutiny officer to take a roll call of all members present, and I would like to ask members please to indicate that they are present by unmuting themselves and saying yes or present, or however you want to phrase it. We will also, if any matters come to a vote today, we will also be taking a vote in the same manner, by having a roll call and being asked to declare your vote accordingly. A reminder to members that we will not be using the chat window in Zoom for anything other than raising urgent points of order, or if absolutely necessary, points of personal explanation, but I hope it doesn't come to that. We are being recorded, as we know, so please observe all the proprieties that go with that. We do have one member who has not got video on because of the quality of the internet, but we will try to ensure that people are visible at all times, please, as well. So, I'd like to start by asking Robert Fox, please, to call a roll call of members.
Okay, and I shall do this in sort of alphabetical order of constituent authority. So I shall start with Councillor Gehring.
Yes, I'm present. Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Present.
Now, Councillor Scutt and Councillor Connor are the two representatives from Cambridgeshire County Council, and neither of those are present on screen. I shall say their names just to make sure that that's not just an error on the screen. Councillor Scutt. Councillor Connor. So it would appear that neither of those are here. East Cambridgeshire now. Councillor Sharp.
Present.
Councillor Dupree.
Present.
Councillor Jordan.
Present.
Councillor Dew. So we take it that he's not here. Sorry, I skipped Finland. Then Councillor Miscandlin.
Present.
And Councillor Hay.
Yeah.
And finally, Councillor Halings. Councillor Fain substituting in her place.
Present.
And Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much indeed, Robert. And from that, we appear to be quorate. The quorum is 10 members.
Can we just say that there are two councillors present from Peterborough as well?
Oh.
I know we don't have meetings in Peterborough anymore, but apparently we're still on combined authority.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Peterborough. Councillor Murphy.
All right, we should be in the East Midlands anyway.
Councillor Murphy.
Present.
And Councillor Coles.
You're on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. Apologies to everyone in Peterborough.
Thank you very much indeed. So from that, we have apologies, it would appear, from a number of members. If you could just quickly confirm, Robert, which of those members are apologising for absence?
Yes, as previously indicated, Councillor Pippa Halings has sent her apologies from South Cambridgeshire District Council, and Councillor Peter Fain is substituting. And I also received apologies this morning from Councillor Jocelyn Scutt from Cambridgeshire County Council. They're the only two apologies I've actually received.
Thank you very much. We then move to item number 2, which is to confirm the membership of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the municipal year. This list, of course, will go to the board for final confirmation next week, but there have been, to my knowledge, no changes so far to the composition of this committee for 2019-20, except that we have not yet had a meeting in Fenland. Councillor Miscandlin, you wish to say something?
No. It was just someone banged on the window of my house. No, you're quite right. We haven't held our meeting yet.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So that confirms the membership. We now move on to item 3, which is to appoint a chair and vice chair for this committee for 2020 to 21. And for the appointment of the chair, I will step aside and I will ask Robert Parkin, our monitoring officer, to conduct the election of a chair.
Thank you, Chair. And moving to position of no chair, could I ask members of the committee for a nomination of chair?
Sorry, Chair, could I nominate Councillor Dupre if she's still willing to fulfil the role?
And I will second that.
But I wanted to second that. Sorry. No, that's fine.
Thank you, members. Councillor Dupre, I'm assuming that you're consenting to the nomination?
I'm happy to consent to nomination.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if there are any other nominations, but that.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, I'll take this separately to the vice chair vote, and I will ask, if I can, the scrutiny officer to conduct a roll call and vote from the list that he has. Could I ask you to move to yourself, Robert, for that?
Agreed.
Are members happy to take that as a unanimous vote? So that Councillor Dupre will abstain?
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed.
So vote is carried. Welcome, Councillor Dupre, chair of the meeting. Would you like me to conduct the vice chair vote, or are you happy to take that one on?
Why don't you do so as you're on a roll?
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Chair. Could I have nominations for the role of vice chair of the committee, please?
Is Councillor Price perhaps interested?
Happy to continue if that's what the committee wishes.
I'd be very happy to second that.
Thank you. We have a nomination and a seconder. This is a vote for Councillor Price as vice chair of this committee for the forthcoming municipal year. Are members happy to take? Well, could I have votes? I'm assuming it's unanimous, but.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
And an abstention for Councillor Price on the vote. Yeah. No. Yes, it seems to be. I take that as a, yeah. Okay, I think that's unanimous.
Yeah, take that as me voting for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Price. And Vice Chair, over to yourself now. Again, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Robert, and thank you, members. And I look forward to working with you all and with Councillor Price as Vice Chairman during the coming year. Can I move on then to item 4 and declarations of interest? Does anybody have any declarations of interest that they need to make?
No.
I see none. No, okay, thank you. So if I may, we'd like to move to the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anybody have any comments on their accuracy? I think I have a couple, if I may. Firstly, at 7.5 on the Market Town master plans, it's noted that there was some disquiet expressed from members around the consultations in Fenland and East Cambridgeshire. There haven't been any consultations in East Cambridgeshire. I don't know whether that was what that was intended to express or whether that actually meant Huntingdonshire. But as far as I recall, I think the Huntingdonshire members weren't terribly dissatisfied with what had happened in Huntingdonshire. I just want a clarification of whether that actually meant East Cambridgeshire. Robert, are you able to help us?
That's one for our scrutiny officer.
Yeah.
I was desperately trying to unmute whilst looking at the minutes at the same time. Sorry.
Oh dear. Sorry.
I minuted it as was stated at the meeting. I did check the video, and there was Councillor Miscandlin certainly, and Councillor Sharp, I think, did mention that there had not been any consultations around their Market Town master plans at that time. So I minuted that as such.
Thank you very much indeed. And my other question was 10.3. The Task and Finish Group requested to continue its work until the final business case in January 2020. I think that means 2021.
Yeah.
Other than that, is everybody happy to accept those minutes as an accurate record? Yeah. Okay.
It's happy.
In addition to that, we have at the end of our minutes the questions that we asked the Combined Authority Board. The answers to those questions don't appear in our own minutes, and it has been suggested to me by Councillor Hay that it would be a good idea, and I think I've also mentioned this before, that it would be, in the interests of transparency, we ought to have the answers given by the board to our questions appended to our own minutes. So can I ask that people signal that we would like to do that in future, please?
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. The answers to these questions are in fact in the board minutes for Wednesday's meeting next week.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do, rather than, as we say, rather than putting them on the minutes, we'll add a supplement to the minutes, and that can then be published on the Combined Authority meetings website.
Are there any matters arising that we need to pick up out of these minutes? I'm conscious of one only, which was at 6.6, the agreement to share the base report on the business board with members of the committee if base approved this. I've not seen anything back from that, I don't think. Have I missed something? Where are we with that? Do we know? I'm looking at...
Robert, was you going to skip in then, or?
I wasn't actually, no, I haven't heard on that. Would you like us to take away something to report back on, or directly to yourself, Chair?
I think it would be helpful to round that off if members agree.
I think the delay might be that they were trying to get agreement from Bays that it was forwarded, so that might just be the delay, but we will follow that up.
Thank you very much. I don't think there's anything else to pick up out of the minutes unless anybody... Oh, Councillor Coles is indicating. Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Chair. The only issue really comes from the last element about lead members. We haven't formally asked for lead members in the process so far. You may have planned that in the future, but would it be important for everyone to agree those that are doing lead member roles to continue, or for new people to take them on?
That's a very good point, and one that I should have covered earlier. We haven't got anywhere else on the agenda to do that unless we pick that up at point 12, where we have committee meetings, lead member questions. Do members want to cover this now, or do we want to leave it and take it under that item 12 on lead member questions? I think if we left it till 12, that would be quite a tidy thing to do. On the other hand, if we're looking at horizon scanning, it might be good to give them some kind of status at item 9. So I asked informally a couple of weeks ago whether members were interested in resuming that role for the year. And I had indications from most that they were. I think the only one I didn't have a response from was Councillor Murphy. Councillor Murphy, you had the housing role last year. Would you be happy to continue?
Yes, Chair. I had my hand up basically on item 14 on the agenda. I did submit some questions to committee. They were very late, and thank you for your help, Chair, in getting them put to bed. We only got them in on the Saturday. The meeting was early the next week, and they weren't raised at the committee, though I was observing and put my hands up, and got a point of order indicated there. As far as continuing, yes, I would like to continue as lead, if that's agreeable with members. There is a wee bit of a problem with Peterborough, because you did write to me about the situation, and I tried to get the administration in Peterborough to make a decision about who are going to be their representatives on the Combined Authority and on the board of the Combined Authority committees this year. But as you may be aware, Peterborough City Council has not been meeting and doesn't intend meeting until July. There's another issue as well at Peterborough. They've suspended the board's and the Combined Authority's work being reported to the council as well, sometimes last year. So that probably needs to pick up. But to go back, sorry for going on, but to answer your question, yes, I would like to carry on if that's agreeable.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. That's good to know. Councillor Coles, you also indicated that you were willing to continue to take the skills agenda forward for the forthcoming year.
Yes, Chair, happy unless someone's got a burning desire to take the responsibility.
Okay, thank you. And transport, what about our transport people? We had two, didn't we? Councillor Sharp, I think you were on transport, weren't you? And
yes, I am, yes. I'm happy to carry on if members, but like Councillor Cole said, if happy if somebody else wants to join it as well.
I think Councillor Miss Scanlon was your partner in crime for the year. Am I remembering correctly?
No, I think he was on skills, I think.
He was on skills. I do apologise. Right, okay. So, and Councillor Miss Scanlon, are you willing to continue to work with Councillor Coles on the skills agenda? Yeah, okay. So we have people willing to continue. Is there anybody else who is willing to accompany them, work with them, shadow them, challenge them? Anybody wanting a role? Don't all speak now.
I'd like to continue on the CAM Metro Task and Finish group, if that's
We'll come to
agreeable.
that in a while. I'm looking at lead members at the moment. We need to agree to continue the work on the CAM Metro. We haven't yet done that. That's a request later on in the agenda. Right, okay. The one area I'm aware that isn't covered by anybody in particular is the business board. Is there a role, particularly with the COVID-19 recovery coming up the tracks, for someone to be seeking to shadow and act as a lead member for what's going on at business board? Anybody with a view or volunteering to do that? Councillor
bearing in mind that there will be some changes within the makeup of the ONS, I would say defer the decision on this one until the new members are put in place, because I know the possibility there's one gentleman that may be coming forward that will be very interested in that.
Right, okay. Are members happy to defer that and to accept the continuation of members who've already expressed that they're happy to carry on for the year?
Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy with it.
Thank you very much. So moving on to the minutes item then. Are we content with that and then to move on to item 6? Yeah. Item 6 is public questions. Robert, I believe we have none.
None received.
Thank you very much. And item 7 then is the CPCA project register. And I believe we should have coming to join us Paul Rains and Rebecca.
Did you want them in now?
Yes, please, I think so.
Okay.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. Under item 7 of the agenda, board members have received a full list of full list of Combined Authority projects as at the beginning of May 2020. This is a regular item following a request from members that the full list of projects is provided to the overview and scrutiny meeting on a quarterly basis. Not only does this show the full list of active projects, but it also shows those projects that have closed since the previous update. As members can see, 6 projects have closed, 4 of these completed, and 2 have also been closed prematurely. These were the St Neots River Crossing project and the 103rd River Crossing project. As a result of these completed projects, the overall list of the CPA projects has been reduced, but this does continue to be updated and reviewed as new initiatives are brought into the authority. But absolutely, it's just one of the regular updates.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Roberta. Do we not have Paul Rains with us this morning? Is it just yourself?
Just myself, yeah.
It's just yourself. Okay, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for that introduction. Sorry, the just yourself was in no way meant to be in any way disparaging. Thank you for being clear. Thank you very much indeed for that. I'm happy to open this to members. Have you anything that you would like to ask Roberta about? I see Councillor Hay indicating to speak.
Yes, the table 2, the completed stroke no longer proceeding projects. It would have been handy to have had some idea which ones were no longer proceeding and the reasons behind that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I take that on board. I can provide a short update after this meeting about why those no longer proceeding projects. I know, yeah, I can provide that after the meeting.
Mm.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Hay, I think you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, or if you could bring it back to the next meeting so it's clearly in the public domain which ones were which ones were abandoned and the reasons why, so that members of the public can have a clear idea of why some of these projects weren't going forward.
Absolutely, yeah, I can bring that to back to the next meeting, definitely.
Thank you very much indeed for raising that, Councillor Hay. That was on my list of things to raise, so thank you for doing so. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's on the table too. That may be good that it comes back with the reason, but actually, if we interrogate that information, it is on the site and it will explain why the Peterborough University project has finished, been withdrawn or has been completed, and it will do on the others as well. I think to have a programme delivery update on the projects is a great idea. At the moment, on this one, we've only got 6 that there's been that update on. So we could have the narrative that came with it, if need be, or we could ask questions here and now. I'm presuming the university one is Project A, B and C, so Project B and C are carrying on. And I'm presuming, I'm talking about Peterborough here, the station quarter, Project 1, and that's been done, that bit's been refurbed. But you can look on the website, hopefully, and get further information, and so can members of the public that might be watching.
That's perfect, yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'm happy to bring an update on the particular projects that are no longer proceeding to the next meeting and just provide a little bit more clarity on that.
I muted myself. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chairman. It's touching on really what Councillor Murphy's just said. Obviously, things like the Cambridge South Station, the interim solution's finished, but it's now moved up to the next stage. I think it would be useful for some of the bigger items, maybe for us to have a more in-depth look, maybe in those fallow months that we were talking about earlier, where there's no board meeting, to try and dig into some of these in much more depth. I would consider. I know some of the transport ones do go to the transport committee in a lot more depth, but which is good. But you know, I'm not thinking of anything specifically at the moment, but I'm just sort of bouncing an idea off in terms of what we could look at. You know, dig into some of it, because it also comes into the medium-term financial plan in terms of how the timescale of some of these big projects are going to, you know, whether in 2021 or they're going into later years, and how the finances work on those. And obviously we know it's been affected by the current situation, which I think from a committee point of view, it'd be useful, and it will be useful to know that, but it may not be at this stage where you're able to give a definitive answer, because obviously until we know how things pan out going forward in the next few months, it may be difficult to predict when some of these projects are actually going to be finalised.
Absolutely, and if members did want a bit more detail on any particular projects in the future, by all means, we're happy to bring through those updates, or at a meeting, or email those around separately, and make that more detail more available if that's what members would require.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hay, were you wanting to make a fresh point?
It's about the same point. I appreciate what Councillor Murphy said about you can find out the answers if you go onto the website, but we have to remember not all members of the public are, shall we say, up on IT, and that's one of the reasons why I think, I'm not asking for reams of reasons, just the bullet points of why something hasn't been carried through is enough, so that people can clearly see it without having to go and search a website.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else indicating to speak at the... Oh, Councillor Murphy again.
Yes, Chair. The actual projects are of great interest, and I accept what my colleague was saying. They are of the public as well, and just saying go to the website may not be good enough. Now, members may remember at one stage we had a senior member of staff presented a paper on projects to this committee that showed we were £7 million over budget in projects and what we had to spend. I think it was later on that week he left the employee of this authority. So it is quite a controversial matter, and it can take up some time. And I think we probably need to schedule it in. So this has appeared today. It's a funny time of the year in a pandemic, so maybe we're not prepared as we were, but certainly it does raise questions. For example, Table 1 discusses Peterborough University and it alludes to building things. Table 2 talks about the university now being finished as a project. The question is, where are we with the franchising? Have we got somebody to operate this university? Is it going to happen? The other thing is, how much do all these projects add up to? And how much do we have in our budget potentially? So it is quite a big issue, but probably not to dwell on today. But I think at some stage we may want to devote part of a further meeting to looking at the programme delivery plan in more depth.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else indicating to speak. Can I suggest that one useful thing the committee might do is for our newly reappointed lead members to look at the projects within the remit of their committee and start thinking about when some of the key dates are in those projects, at which point we might want to have people coming in to talk to this committee about what's going on. Does that sound like something that the lead members would be able to do, is just take on with the officers, get some guidance and work with the officers on those projects to identify the point at which it would be useful for us to be hearing something back to us as an update? Councillor Coles.
Yes, Chair, very happy to pursue that and come back to the committee with relevant dates. And it's been quite difficult actually to work remotely with individuals, as you might imagine. Normally meetings at the office are somewhat easier.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much indeed for that. Councillor Sharp.
Yes, similar to Councillor Coles, happy to work with Roberta or Paul Rains in terms of the transport ones, because obviously the timescale on those is critical.
Okay, Robert Fox.
May I suggest it might be a good idea, therefore, after we've looked at the Horizon Scanning Strategic Forward View item, once that's cleared, if we have schedule a meeting in with those lead members, myself, other Robert and the lead members, maybe a week before the next ONS meeting, when we can actually put something in train that when those items might be able to come to the committee. Obviously, we'd need to liaise with the relevant directors that those projects are ready to come and for a presentation. But I think that might be a good idea to actually have a meeting moving forward with the lead members to schedule in for the work programme.
In principle, that sounds very helpful. My only question would be about the timescale, because if it were a week before our next meeting, that would be too late for papers to be put on our agenda in a timely manner. Would it be possible to move that forward to the point where the output of that meeting could actually form a paper to, or part of the paperwork for the meeting?
I'll look at the calendar and scheduling something appropriate. So, I mean, we publish 7 days before, so yeah, maybe 10, 12 days before the next meeting. But I'll
possibly even earlier, actually.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks before, something like that.
We'll have a discussion, Rob. We want to make sure we give ourselves plenty of time, Chair, to get this right.
If you two and the lead members could work together to do that within a timescale that suits. Councillors Sharp and Murphy, I see you may have something to say on that. Councillor Sharp. You're still muted, Councillor Sharp.
I'm okay now, yeah. Yeah, okay. No, happy to work with Robert and the officers in terms of trying to produce something. And as you say, it needs to be at a time where the paper can come before this committee.
Thank you. I think I saw Councillor Murphy's hand up, but then it went down again. Does that mean your point's been covered?
Chair, I was just going to say, I'm fortunate the housing ones, there's only a few on the list. And if you look at them, depending upon your interpretation, one, the affordable housing programme, amber, the City Cambridge one, green, and the other one, again, depending upon your interpretation, amber as well.
I realise that. I don't particularly want to bin it. I don't have a use for one anywhere.
Sorry, we've got some interference, I think, somewhere.
Let's see if you...
Oh, that's better. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Murphy, you were saying that...
Yeah, so I think possibly what could be included, I don't particularly like the red, amber, green, just to highlight these for us, and then we can take it up with committees. I'm fortunate because there aren't too many in housing, and they're quite clear.
Okay, thank you for that. But if you can engage with the process, then obviously anything that is relevant, you can pitch into the mix. Okay, does that sound like a useful way forward? Are we happy that we know what we're doing on that? Yeah? Thank you, everyone. Next item then is, thank you very much, Roberta, sorry. I think she disappeared before I had a chance to thank her. Right, next item is item 8, which is the final report of the CAM Metro Task and Finish Group, and we have Councillor Price to guide us through this stage of press.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Oh, not sure I like the word final report, given the recommendation at the end that we're hoping the Overview and Scrutiny Committee will support. And we met last week to discuss this, and as a result, the report that is before you was drawn up. And I think it's fair to say that our overall concern is about the funding and where the money is coming from in order to progress the CAM Metro. But as the report says, we feel our work is incomplete. You know, we've reached this point, but it will be going on continuing from there, which is why in the recommendations we're requesting that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee support our call for us to continue with our work, and that we will update this committee on a quarterly basis of our progress. Happy to take questions, Chair. I think that covers it, really.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Price. Councillor Gehring.
Yes, I wanted to fully agree with Councillor Price. We've worked really intensively over the last 3 weeks. We had excellent officer support, and we've only really started after a meeting in July, meeting in December, to then really get into the details. And I would strongly support the suggestion that we should continue our discussions. As I said, the last 3 weeks were really, really fruitful, and we made surprising and rapid progress. It is indeed just an interim report for the last municipal year. And it, I hope members can agree that it raises important questions that that still need to be answered.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Garing. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chairman. Totally agree with Councillors Price and Goering. I think we've made a fair bit of progress recently, but I think there's still a lot more work to do. The OBC is going to be ready, according to the timetable, in summer 2020. I'm not sure exactly when. But also, as we had at our last discussion, we've got all of I think we still need to get to grips with things like the governance structure with the various new committees and boards that have been appointed, and to fully understand that, because I certainly don't fully understand that at the moment, and that's one area I would like us to have a look at, because I think if we're scrutinising it, we need to look at the governance structure or those committees that have been set up. But yeah, I think, as Councillor Price said, I think our work is only half done.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fain.
Yes, one issue that doesn't seem to be covered in this is the continuing question of the relationship between the Mayor and the CAM and the GCP and their busway proposals, obviously C2C in particular. And we did have an outstanding issue on that, which it wasn't possible to resolve because, or to consider, because our first formal meeting didn't take place in time. We had only an informal meeting. Was this something that was considered by the task and finish group, or was it thought to be outside of scope?
Councillor Price, would you like to answer that?
That's a very good question. No, I don't think that is something that we've considered, and perhaps we ought to. I mean, I'm interested that you raised the Greater Cambridge Partnership, which I see has now been allocated its second tranche of funding in order that it can continue with its work. And let's not forget that the Greater Cambridge Partnership started as a massive idea with very little money in the first place, and it took the best part of 2 years or so in order to get things moving and get things in place. It hasn't been helped by I believe the Mayor constantly sniping at the Greater Cambridge Partnership, running the Greater Cambridge Partnership down, and indeed claiming that he was going to take over. Well, it would appear that the government don't agree, which is why, you know, the Greater Cambridge Partnership have had that money. So it is something we should be looking at.
I mean, if you look at the the priorities of the task and finish group, they were the financial viability, the unique circumstances of a mass transit system which extends into rural areas, and also the coordination of the CAM Metro project with the transport strategy and other transport issues. And the last point about the Greater Cambridge Partnership fits into that last priority. This is an ongoing set of issues that the task and finish group has been looking at, and it is a mega project that will continue to proceed for some time, and that we will, I'm sure, want to continue to have a watching brief on. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Fane. Councillor Miscandlin and then Councillor Gehring.
Yeah, I think the answer's in the title of it. It's task and finished. It's not finished. It's a long way from being finished, and I would fully support the continuation of this subcommittee looking into it and getting the answers, because the public won't like it when it comes to the end and there's no answer. You can't finish it now. You've got to have the answers, and the answers have got to come from the relevant people within the organisations that can give those answers. At the moment, Councillor Price is perfectly correct. It should continue, because I don't think it's anywhere near finished.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gehring and then Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I mean, the task and finish group members actually asked quite a few questions about the integration of the existing busways with the CAM, the technology interaction, the planned Greater Cambridge Partnership, GCP projects, and how they integrate. And officers took them away, said on an officer level, they're actually collaborating quite well, but at the highest level of decision making, i.e. the GCP board and the mayor, there seems to be very little interaction. And there might be something we as a scrutiny committee can also maybe shed some light on how that interaction should work. We discussed it also as part of the governance structure, not just the governance structure of the CAM project itself, but also how it relates to other stakeholders, East West Rail, the Oxford-Cambridge Arc, and other mega projects that are basically in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Chair. I'm totally supportive of allowing this to continue. I think it's most important, given the fact that quite clearly the Mayor is has the transport authority for the area, and I'm happy to believe that GCP are completely ignoring him. So I believe the task and finish group should continue, and that we need a proper response from them in looking into the way that this is going to work. We need good, reliable transport. Cambourne to Cambridge is very important. Cambourne is going to benefit from East West Rail and additionally Cam Metro. Why we need a bus delivery service that's going to cost over 200 million, I've no idea.
Thank you very much. There's certainly a lot to discuss, and I've not heard anybody say that in their view this task and finish group shouldn't continue. I do just want to draw, I mean, and I'm not dissenting from that shared view in any way, but I think what I would like to do as chair is just draw members' attention to what I might call the opportunity costs of that. We've had a request from the bus working group that it continues with its work into early 2021. We've had a request from the CAM task and finish group to continue also throughout this year. I think both of those are important projects, and I'm not in any way suggesting we shouldn't be working on those, but I'm just very conscious of our capacity, and I'm wondering whether if those two working groups continue, we are therefore saying that those are likely to be the only two task and finish groups that we have the capacity to sustain in 2020 to 21. And if that is the position, are we comfortable with that? Or is there anything else that anybody thinks is a kind of such a burning issue that we ought to have a task and finish group looking at that too during 2020 to 21?
Well, Lorna, depending on how the board and the mayor comes back to us on the climate change issue and the post-COVID-19 recovery,
Councillor Gehring, I'm not hearing you. Is that just me?
I can't hear him either, Lorna.
No,
All right.
Looks like it's crashed.
Marcus, we appear to have lost you. We appear to have lost you, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
Chair, I think we got the gist at the beginning of what Councillor Gehring was saying, that there were those two areas where there would be potential for another one, maybe two task and finish groups, but there's been no suggestion of one yet.
No. There hasn't, but we are about to move on to horizon scanning, which may throw up one or two other ones. But Councillor Fane, you wanted to speak. Councillor Fane, you're on mute.
Let's see. I hope I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
Yes, as a substitute, I hesitate to suggest further task and finish groups, but it does seem to me that the focus inevitably will switch onto COVID-19 recovery, and we have talked about future relations with the business board. I'm not quite sure how that is best handled, whether that's by the committee as a whole, or whether that's something on which we might need a task and finish group if we have the capacity to take on further tasks.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we need to make that decision today, but I did just want to ensure that we all had in the back of our minds when we decide, as I believe we're going to say yes to the CAM Metro group, please continue, and say yes to the bus review group, yes, please continue, that does take up a fair amount of our capacity, and I just wanted members to be thinking about that in the context of anything else they might want to be putting forward for our attention during the year. Councillor Hay.
I'd just like to point out, as far as the bus review task and finish group is concerned, obviously we can't do much until nearer the end of the year when we see the various business plans. So I don't think we will be overburdening ourselves by keeping on the bus review. And I also agree that the CAM Metro needs to continue because it is a task and finish group and it's not finished. And all these working groups do not have that many participants on them. So I feel that we do have capacity for other work as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Point well made. Councillor Miscanlon.
The point you quite rightly made is, do we overburden ourselves with too many task and finish groups? And I think it's incumbent on yourself and other members to highlight if they feel that the committee is being overburdened with task and finish groups and committees, and to the detriment of the really important ones, which is obviously the CAM Metro is a very important one, and buses is a very important one, but that doesn't detract from some of the others that may be equally as important in a shorter term. So it's something that needs to be monitored as we go along to find out whether it needs to be curtailed or extended. And that's something that that everybody seems to be and needs to be aware of.
Okay, thank you. I see no other speakers other than that Councillor Fane's blue hand is still up and I don't think he intends it to be. It seems to me that there is generally agreement that we accept the request of the CAM Metro Task and Finish Group to continue into this year. Are we all content with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. We now move on to item 9, which is the horizon scanning exercise. We have a brief report, and we have in the back of our minds the various papers that have been produced, the business, the plan for the coming year of the Combined Authority, the business plan 2020-21, and also we've had just a note round as well from the skills strategy manager, which I think was very helpful as well in highlighting some of the issues up and coming during the year. Sorry, I should have mentioned privately to the Roberts, and I didn't, that the purpose of the report is a little unclear on this. I think there's a typographical error there which needs to be corrected, but I'm taking it that the purpose is for us to consider the work of the combined authority over the coming year and consider some of the things we might wish to be looking at during the coming year. Perhaps it might be helpful, as this is quite a big and diffuse topic, if we took it by skills area a bit, by area a bit, and looked at skills, housing, transport, and involved the lead members a bit in thinking about some of the things that are up and coming. I think for me, if I can kick this off generally, I think obviously COVID-19 throws a shadow over absolutely everything and is bound to affect the work of the combined authority as a whole. Certainly the note that we've had round about the skills agenda suggests that it is profoundly going to affect skills, as it's bound to, in terms of apprenticeships and potential redundancies, a series of redundancies as people come off furlough, or employers are asked to contribute towards the cost of furloughing. The huge changes in the economy that will result are bound to have an impact on the whole skills agenda. And that's something that Councillor Coles might want to comment on. Transport as well, there's going to be the whole issue arising from COVID-19 around people's confidence in returning to public transport, and how we can arrange public transport in a way that people have that confidence that they can travel safely. There is also, of course, within the transport agenda, the whole increase in the importance of active travel, alternative modes of transport, walking and cycling and so on, and trying to retain as much as we can of the reduction in car use and the consequent environmental impacts of that. And similarly for housing, we've seen the construction industry in abeyance for several months, and a change to the tempo of the house building projects that we've had. That also will have an impact. So it may be that we want, as I think was being suggested in the last item, to have some sort of working group that looked at COVID recovery in the round, but also there will be issues coming out of this that will all be profoundly affected by COVID, as well as issues that we will want to pursue that would have been taking place anyway. So starting off with that kind of general comment from me, can I encourage us to do this theme by theme, as it were, and perhaps start with the skills agenda? I don't know whether Councillor Coles, you've got anything you'd like to say to us about that, and suggestions as to the things we might be focusing on in the coming year.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Understandably, looking at this when the COVID issues arose meant that everything really has been put back. So if you were to go and look at what were the key issues prior to the outbreak of the pandemic, they're going to continue. But you're right to say, if you look at the supplement from the skills, they're postulating a number of problems that might come up in terms of everything from the ability of distance learning to continue to deliver what's required, right the way through to closure of higher education establishments. So I think it's such a difficult one to call right now. I think we're going to have to consider how we go forward, and really we're going to be led by the post-COVID reaction of delivery of training. And you're right, when it comes to what the job market is going to look like and how training can support it, again, it's a bit early to give a really good reflection. I think we need to have, in terms of our horizon scanning position, is where are we, what's happening, and then be able to formulate how we will review that once that becomes clearer.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's very helpful. Ms. Scanlon, as our other skills person, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? No, apparently not. Thank you. Councillor Murphy, is this still on the skills point? Okay.
Yes, it is, Chair. Thanks to Councillor Coles for pointing out where we should be going on this, and I agree. There's one area I'd like to flag up, though. Tens of thousands of young people in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are going to be impacted significantly from this. Further education plans are taking a turn like youth unemployment took decades ago. And I think we need to now work about what sort of recovery plan, maybe a new green agenda for young people interacting with older people and providing social interaction with them, programs and projects that the combined authority and its constituent parts could play their role in doing. Otherwise, we could have massive social cohesion problems. So effectively, I'm saying now we need to work out what those people will be doing. And bear in mind that younger people tend to work in the hospitality industries, get less than 10 quid an hour. They've not been getting the £2,500 up to a month or the self-employed help from the government that other people have. I think we need to do this work now, and I'd be happy to work with Councillor Coles to provide any backup to some ideas that he's got. I've certainly got some ideas that I'd like this combined authority to push. And if Scrutiny and Overview can be a critical friend and help the board and its committees do the right thing, then I think we should do now rather than later.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Gehring was next.
Yes, I've turned off my video in order to preserve bandwidth. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. I heard in shock this morning on the radio that the government has predictions that we could look at 20-25% unemployment, which in our region would probably translate into entire villages basically having no working population. And so I think this horizon scanning exercise is really important, but the combined authority needs to work with the constituent councils and with central government in order to develop strategies to get us out of this potentially catastrophic situation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Chair. And I absolutely agree with what my colleagues are saying. I think the only element we need to consider is that the role of the skills area within the combined authority doesn't go into schooling, secondary schooling. So you've got to be a bit careful about how far we would like to push the agenda. I absolutely agree. We're going to see unprecedented changes when it comes to the ability, the skills to be delivered outside of the maintained school sector. But there is a concern there, obviously, that whole numbers of students are going to have missed education, won't be transferring into particular positions in skills training for work, and that there's going to be a problem of the number of people who will be in employment. So I think we need to just make sure we concentrate on those areas where we do have influence and probably not get too much involved within the maintained schools sector questions, which are nevertheless fairly significant anyway.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, I agree entirely with that. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything about the skills agenda particularly? I think looking at the note that we had passed around to update us, there is the whole issue of the change in the higher education arena and the way it could impact on the viability of the University of Peterborough and other higher education provision, the loss of international students and so on. And those are some really big questions there that we need to get to grips with. There's the mention as well of an innovation fund, and also that the Employment and Skills Board work programme is going to go to the next meeting of the Employment and Skills Board in June. I'm afraid I haven't done my homework. I don't know when that next meeting is, but it occurs to me that if it's not too early in June for us to ask some questions about. It might be worth Councillor Coles and Miss Scanlon liaising with myself about some possible questions. I don't know whether we are able to put questions to the Employment and Skills Board rather than the committee, but I think it's certainly something that we should be seeking to inform ourselves about if they're going to be putting an updated work programme up next month. I don't know, Councillor Coles, Councillor Miscanlon, how you feel about that, or whether you know when the next board meeting of the Employment and Skills Board actually is.
Andy's got his hand up as well. One thing that would concern me is the Skills Board is coming forward. They can't create jobs. It's the encouragement of the industries, and I mean all the industries, to create jobs for the younger people coming through, and that is very, very important. Having served an apprenticeship myself eons ago, it's the benefit skills that the people get from education and learning on the job and all that, and that needs to carry on. And it's very important that we encourage, and that the CPCA encourage, and the government encourage companies to do that, because if they don't, we're going to be left with a whole party of people that have got no skills. So it is very important, and Andy knows this as well as anyone else, that it is very important that we progress this through the board, and if it means giving some money from somewhere to push that forward, I would totally support it, because it's something that is. And as for the question of the next board meeting, no, I don't know when it is. Andy might, I don't.
Right, okay, thank you very much, Councillor Miscanlon. Councillor Coles?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't have the date of the meeting. I will pursue that, and I think it's probably going to be such a complicated period that we're going to go through in the next couple of months that trying to tie anything down for anyone is probably going to be not as productive as we would like. But I think the answer is to contact those that are responsible for holding these meetings and to get the opportunities to attend to see what's happening, at least get a steer about where they're going. You can't have oversight and scrutinise something that hasn't happened yet. That's the problem. So I wouldn't want to be too in advance of things, although it'd be nice to be there to see what they're talking about, so we can then feed back what they're doing.
Okay, thank you very much. I do think that revised work programme is something that it would be worth us keeping an eye on. Robert Fox, you were indicating to say something to us.
Yes, I just looked up and it would appear it's on the 6th of July.
6th of July, right, okay, so that's more time than we thought. It's not June as is indicated in the paper.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Latest date I have is 6th of July.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. That gives a little time to make some inquiries. So if I can liaise with Councillors Coles and Miss Scanlon on that, and we can see what we can get out of that. Shall we move on to housing then? Councillor Murphy, what are your thoughts about things we're going to be wanting to think about during the year, and the highlights and lowlights?
So we've got in our work programme things scheduled, and as I said earlier on, the Cambridge City stuff's going fine and dandy. It's a green. The other affordable housing programme, we've been raising issues, and other people, there's some dissent within the committee about what is affordable and how that definition's working, and about spatial issues about size and quality. And I know we were pushing the agenda on the environment as well, and accessibility. And then there's a whole project management stuff and the issue about the £100,000 homes. I think those are all basically on amber. Peterborough, if they do develop their housing revenue account, may want to put in a request for the fund to be vired, so that money goes into social housing, rather council housing, rather than the affordable housing programme. But I don't think they're anywhere near making that decision on housing.
Right, okay, thank you. Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a I suppose I thought that the programme, certainly the Cambridge City Council programme, with spending the 70 million, was time limited. It was up to April 2022. Do we know, or can we find out, if that time will be extended as a result of COVID-19 delays to any building works, which there have been?
Okay, is that perhaps a question that we could ask the board, or is it just something that we should pursue informally at this stage?
I don't mind where the question goes, Chair. Well, I think what the important thing is that we get an idea that either through officers to the board, just to establish if that has been discussed.
Okay. Is that something that perhaps Councillor Murphy might want to take up with the relevant officers and come back to members with next time?
Absolutely, Chair, I could do that. Let's go on with the agenda and see how we get, because when it comes to the board, we may want to ask the board a couple of things about the current pandemic and where we're going, and about, look, construction has been delayed, though construction can pick up quite quickly. The education issue we raised earlier on, and we may want to wrap them up in questions to the board. What happens with the combined authority, because the initial funding was to set it up, whether we have a revenue stream or not, or whether the government give us a period of time to carry it over. I think the government might be minded to extend things by a year or two, and we could ask the board to ask that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Miscanlon.
I think that's a very fair question to ask, because basically, yes, the construction on large sites was carrying on because they could social distance, but within housing construction, it virtually shut down. I know I have a large development just a couple of miles from where I live, and they just down tools and all went home, and that's where they stayed, and they've only just started coming back on first fitting. So yes, I think it's a legitimate question to ask, and I would be very surprised if the answer was no, you can't have an extension. And I think that if it is, then it should be pressed that, hang on, you shut us down, you need to extend it.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. Anything else on the housing agenda? I mean, it seems to me that the key issues of general principle on this are going to be around the 100k homes, the affordable housing projects, the issues about standards, whether they are space standards or accessibility standards or carbon neutral standards that we have also been raising, and the community land trusts as well, probably being the other thing to keep an eye on during the year. Does that seem a fair summary? Okay, transport. Councillor Sharp, do you have any thoughts about what's up and coming during the year and when we ought to be keeping an eye on it?
Obviously, as we touched on earlier, I think we need to revisit with officers initially the revised dates of the key decisions for some of these, because it's obviously, as been said, it's all been pushed back, and whether that funding, one presumes that the capital funding will carry on from government. Obviously, you know, they've got many other priorities at the moment with things, but obviously building the infrastructure does help with, you know, taking Councillor Goering's point, if unemployment is at that very high level, then infrastructure does actually help with providing jobs and employment to people. And the only other thing, I don't know if Councillor Price or Goering wanted to touch on it, is I know in the CAM Metro group we were talking about having a full presentation of the CAM Metro, I think in July, which is slightly on or not slightly, but obviously is transport. I don't know if Kevin wants to mention on that, but I believe that's what we were thinking at some stage.
If I can, yeah, that was certainly something that we were looking at and asking for. I'm not sure at this point where that is, whether that's likely to be the next board meeting or one after that, though. No, and I don't mean the one next week.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Is there anybody wanting to say anything more about transport? No, not that I can see. It seems to me that there are two issues then on housing and on transport. There are issues of revising deadlines and seeking extensions to deadlines for things. Is that something it would be useful to have a brief report on to our next meeting, if the lead members could liaise with officers to bring something forward on housing and on transport about impact on deadlines of things and requests for extensions where those are relevant? Does that seem a useful thing for us to do next month? And I was thinking alongside that, the reason I haven't mentioned skills was in view of the revised work programme. I thought it might be quite interesting. I don't know if others agree to have someone from skills along next month to talk to us about the whole impact of COVID-19 on jobs, apprenticeships, University of Peterborough, training, skills, all of that would be quite a useful discussion to have next month on this committee. Does that, Councillor Murphy, you're indicating?
Yes, it's on the skills. I think we've got the university in our work programme for next month anyway, so it would fit really well to extend that to, as you said, about the pandemic and how skills comes out of that, and we do things differently to address the points that Councillor Coles mentioned earlier on.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Yes, I agree with what Councillor Murphy's just said. I think it's very important because the thing is, things are changing all the time. I think we need to have updates so that we keep on top of things, so we know how things are evolving. And obviously, things like housing and transport, they will have an impact on our skills. Mm-hmm. So I think it's quite important that we do have that.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see anybody else indicating to speak. Are we happy then to seek to have brief reports about housing and transport and deadlines and COVID implications to our June meeting, and at our June meeting a presentation on skills generally and the impact of COVID-19? Does that seem reasonable?
That'd be very helpful, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And in general, we'll come to meeting dates later, but in general, are we happy to pursue the kind of fallow months or using those months where the board doesn't meet to find more work, so that we can seek to programme that in with officers behind the scenes and bring some suggestions perhaps to the next.
Agreed.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else indicated, so I think we're agreed way forward on that. So thank you very much, everybody. Annual meeting of the Committee and the board agenda for that is item 10. There are a few key decisions. The main things I think that we've already mentioned are in earlier discussions, I think, are the Alconbury headquarters building and the surrender of the lease. There's nothing else, there's nothing in here on the Climate Change Commission, which was something we thought we might want to ask about, though we weren't sure, I think, whether we wanted to do so at that meeting. And I think we've decided that we're going to talk about government extensions to housing deadlines and so on at our next meeting, rather than ask the board. Was there anything anybody wanted to pick up out of the board agenda that they felt we ought to be asking a question about at the meeting of the board? Councillor Hay.
Yes, you mentioned Alconbury. I looked at the report on the Combined Authority, and in 2.8 of the report, it mentions the considerable margin of saved cost, which is 771,000. But that really is not a true figure, because the officers who are currently based at Alconbury will need to be housed elsewhere. So surely the true cost is the difference between what it costs for them to be housed elsewhere and what we're saving at Alconbury. I just thought that was a bit disingenuous.
Councillor Murphy, is it on this point that you wanted to say something, or was it on something else? Because if it's on something else, I'd like to just round off Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, my point is not on the cooking of the books. It's more like £300,000 savings. My point is on something else, 3.4.
Okay, can I just conclude then Councillor Hayes' point first? Is that something, Councillor Hay, that you're wanting to raise with the board and ask them about?
Yes, it is important for us to understand exactly what the saving is going to be, because it certainly isn't going to be 771,000.
Okay. Do others agree that we want to ask a question about the actual savings?
Yes, Chair, yeah, I do.
I would, sorry, Lorna, Marcus here. I would also like to ask why we're paying a whole year's rent as part of our negotiated settlement, right? If I saw the number correctly, it's nearly 139,000 that we are paying in order to get out of the lease early. That also needs to be factored in when we're looking at new accommodation elsewhere, for example, in Ely. So I'm not sure whether the business, the sort of savings report really stacks up.
Okay. We can certainly ask about that. Councillors, I've got Councillors Murphy, Gehring and Hay, and I know Councillor Murphy wanted to make a different point. I'm not sure whether Councillors Gehring and Hay have just not removed their hands or whether they still have something to say.
No, Lorna, it's about the point just raised.
Thank you.
The cost of the lease surrender is 151,000, and that is taken off the saving cost of 922 to reach the figure that I mentioned of 771,000. I just wanted to make that plain.
Right, okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So are members content that we frame a question along the lines of seeking clarification about the actual savings and about the year's rent?
Agreed, absolutely.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that question then. Does anybody want? Do we want to ask a question? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Councillor Murphy, you had a different point you wanted to make.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's under 3.4. It's about transport studies and funding them in the Peterborough area.
Well, there appear to be two 3.4s, I think, on my agenda. It's the second 3.4.
It's the transport studies one for Peterborough. And some of it involves the board agreeing to approve expenditure on doing things at junctions and crossings, etc., etc., etc. The issue is county-wide. I would ask that we consider asking the board that they now review that immediately, so these studies take account of pedestrians and cyclists, particularly in Peterborough, where pedestrians and cyclists have been ignored for decades. And there's now an impetus from the Combined Authority and the government to try and increase traffic for pedestrians and cyclists. Just a great opportunity to not agree to spend that money on what they were going to do, but to agree to spend that money so if they do bring improvements, it means the cyclist or the pedestrian or even the bus can get across the junction as well as the car.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murphy, and not forgetting maybe it's less of a problem in parts of Peterborough, but certainly it is an issue in my neck of the woods, equestrians as well in that equation. how do people feel about asking a question about taking account of active modes of travel within the transport schemes and studies? Councillor Fane and Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Fane first. Councillor Fane, you're muted.
I'll try again. Yes, I would very much support that and what Councillor Murphy just said. And as you said, Chair, it's very much more widespread. What applies in Peterborough applies throughout. At the moment, we're talking about the opportunities to divert road space to pedestrians and cyclists and so on, because we see the roads much less used. There is a risk, of course, that as people return to work, afraid of doing so in the buses, that apparent road space may be quickly taken up. And I think it is important that we start to address this before we revert to what might be a less sustainable norm than we're expecting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chamberlain.
Chair, more than happy to support both my colleagues, but particularly in relation to linking the villages to the main centres. They are pretty poorly represented in so many areas, and if we could widen that to take in the wider Cambridgeshire area, I would be delighted. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to ask a question about that then. Anything else we want to ask the board about? I'm not seeing anything. I see Councillor Fane and Chamberlain still have their hands up, but I don't think that's fresh points. Right, okay, so we have two questions. Oh, sorry, the other question was whether we wanted to ask anything again about the Climate Change Commission. How do people feel about that?
It might be rude not to, Chair.
Councillor Coles.
Forgive me, Chair. I just missed on point 5.2, the Consolidated Economic Business and Skills Insight Programme. That might be worthwhile asking the COVID response and how that might affect that.
Thank you.
Chair, if I could just quickly, to avoid disappointment, are we clear which item on the CA board agenda the climate change question can be hanged upon?
Can be hung on, yes. I appreciate the point. It's very hard to see that, isn't it? Because there is nothing there that enables us to ask that question. You are right.
Chair, might I suggest 1.2?
The minutes.
1.12, I beg your pardon. That's the our annual report. We did mention it in there.
Yes. So we're in the slightly unusual position of asking a question about our own report, but I take the point that that might be a place to put it. Yeah. How do people feel? Do they feel it's useful in principle to put a question, if we can, on this to the board? And if it is, then we need to find a way to do that. Do people feel it's an issue of principle? Councillor Miscandlin, you have your hand up.
Yes, as I brought up in the pre-meet, it's a question that's been asked previously. We've never received a satisfactory answer. I think it's about time we received some form of answer, even if it's not go away and hide in the garden, but it needs to be answered. It's no good keep fudging it and saying, oh, well, it's sometime in the future. We need an answer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murphy, and then Councillor Jordan.
Yes, I think Councillor Cole suggested somewhere, but if we're minded to ask a question about this, we can get it in under the current pandemic and the outcomes of that. So we know that pollution's gone down. We know that things are changing. We know that climate change outcomes could be affected because of what we do now, because we've had a change in the way we operate. For example, I don't know how water use has been going. With a lot of industry and hospitality not working, there's probably been less less used. That's why we haven't had the drought media reports so far this year, but I think we can hang it on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Yes, no, I agree with what the previous two councillors said. I'd like to know what they mean by productive discussions. What does that mean? It's all right just to say it, they are just words, but they're not actually telling us anything, and it's very frustrating. I get asked about this probably more than anything else, actually.
Right. Okay, it seems to me that there is general agreement, thank you everybody, that we need to ask this. There is the suggestion that we could ask it under our own report, or we could simply, as we did last time, we asked questions, we were told questions 1 to 3 weren't related to anything on the agenda, but we would get a written response, and we got a response of some kind anyway, so we could simply try that on a second time. Do people feel, do people agree that we need to ask a question about the Climate Change Commission in principle? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Can you leave it with myself to liaise with officers about the item under which we asked and to circulate the questions before they go to the board? Yeah? Okay, excellent, thank you. Now I have to say that I am afraid I will not be able to attend the board in person myself next week because I have a conflicting meeting. Councillor Price, are you available to do the honours?
And thereby, I have a problem. I've got two things. A, I'm supposed to be at work, and B, I'm supposed to be in some planning training, without which I can't sit on the City Council and the Joint Development Control Committee. I will attempt to get out of both and get back to you, but there is a possibility I won't be able to do that either, but I will try my best.
Okay, thank you. My conflicting meeting starts at 11:30, so I suppose if push came to shove, I could do the first 55 minutes or so and see how far I got, and then just simply give my apologies and ask for a written response to anything that I wasn't able to be there for. Shall I liaise with Councillor Price about that in the meantime? The other issue I have is that presumably if the Overview and Scrutiny Committee annual report is on their agenda at item 1.12, then somebody from this committee really ought to be at the meeting to either present that or answer any points raised about it. So someone ought to be there. I think looking at the first 11 items, which are probably, with perhaps the exception of the review of the governance arrangements, fairly brief in nature. Those shouldn't take too long. Perhaps if I undertake to be there for as long as I can, if Councillor Price can't attend, and we'll liaise between ourselves, but make sure that one of us is there for as long as one of us can be there. Does that suit? Yeah? Okay, we will do our best on that. So we have questions then on the Alconbury HQ, on the transport schemes, and on the Climate Commission. Those are the 3 questions we are agreeing to ask. Yes? Thank you very much indeed for that then. Then we have the Combined Authority Forward Plan, and I'm not sure there is an awful lot that we can cover within that. Is there anything anybody wishes to raise out of that, pick up as being of particular ongoing relevance? I struggled, I think, to see anything. I see no hands up. Should we just accept that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Councillor Miscandlin.
One thing that would come to me, the CPC had a watching brief on the Kingsdyke crossing. Are they still going to maintain that? Now a contract has been signed with a company to carry out the work. Are they still going to keep a watching brief on the overall management and deliverance of that project?
I don't know the answer to that question. Is that something that Councillor Sharp you could get an answer to, or one of the Roberts provide us with an answer on?
Yes, I mean, we provide an immediate report on the committees, and we'll send that to the relevant officers, so they'll be aware that that will be on the a question for them to come back with an answer for.
Okay, so what is the ongoing role of CPCA in the King's Dyke crossing now that the contract has been let is basically the question we're asking, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, grand. Okay. So I think we're done on that item, which leads us then to the lead member questions and answers. We do have our lead members in place. Is there anything that any of you would like to tell us about in this item? Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, I had my hand raised. It was really in relation to the previous one.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. King's Dyke, I mean, I've been across that crossing, God, a few months ago, but I don't know it as well as other councillors whose patch it is. But it was I know it's been a subject that's sort of been discussed a number of times, and it was one of the ones I wanted to pick up on in terms of the transport timetable and how that was going to be progressed. So definitely with officers, we'll try and get some sort of idea and answer on that. In terms of, sorry, Alex.
Much appreciated, Doug. It's an ongoing problem for Whittlesea, and I use it probably more regular than anybody else on this group. And it's a bane of our lives, and we get asked about it all the time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sharp, had you finished, or were you?
No, all I was going to say, I've got no specific items on transport to discuss at this point, but I'm happy to try and answer anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything anybody wishes to raise with Councillor Sharp on transport? Councillor Coles, you had your hand up. Is that in relation to skills?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right, Chair.
Move on to skills,
questions and answers. And the last group, we're all really looking at the impact on the projects of COVID. So it's not going to take us any further forward, I don't think, at the moment, until we're a bit clearer on what that response will be.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for that. And Councillor Murphy on housing, anything further you want to let us know?
I've raised the issues, and you've raised them as well today that we're pursuing. I don't need to raise them at board.
Okay, that's grand. Thank you very much indeed. So in summary on this item then, if I may, we will be, the Combined Authority Board will be agreeing the dates of future meetings and calendar into which the Executive Committee dates will be slotted, which will give our lead members and myself an indication of when we need to be springing into action on anything that's going to a committee. And it would be good if we could get into a routine of ensuring that any questions we want to put to one of the executive committees, or indeed to the business board, are fully formed and gone to the executive committee chair and officers at least 48 hours in advance of their meeting, to give them the opportunity to pull together an informed response for us. Does that seem a reasonable self-imposed deadline on ourselves, so that we can get authoritative and informed answers back to our questions? Yeah? Okay, that gives us time from publication of the agendas to look through what it is we're likely asking, and then to form those questions and agree them before they get submitted, but still in time for the committee to be able to consider them. Okay, thank you very much for that. I think we're done on that item now, so thank you very much everybody for that. which then takes us to date of next meeting. And as I said, the calendar for the authority is going to be agreed by the board next week. And our next scheduled date, according to that meetings card, is the 22nd of June. One after that will be the 27th of July. And then if we can come back to our next meeting with suggested dates for those fallow months, in addition to the dates for the months when the board is meeting through to the end of the municipal year. Are we happy with that? Yeah? Okay. So I think that is therefore business done. So thank you very much indeed, members, for your attendance, your contributions today. Thank you in particular to our lead members for agreeing to take on another year of work. Thank you to the chairs of our task force who are continuing with that work, and thank you very much indeed to Robert and Sue for assisting, facilitating, supporting and doing everything else that's helpful to our work. Thank you all, and see you next time.
Thank you to you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lorna.
Thank you, Lorna.
Chair.
Bye, everyone.
Chair.
Bye. Yes.
It might be useful for us and Robert, if he's available, to have a meeting just to discuss the questions for the board, and we'll get them formulated this afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So should we say, what time are you available, Robert? You're muted.
Sorry, I could probably do, well, I could certainly do a fit around Councillor Dupre. Unfortunately, I do have something at 1 and 2, but I could jump out of those or be available at 1:45.
So that's 9 minutes away.
What would you